Welcome to the Well-Seasoned Librarian podcast. I'm your host, Dean Jones. We're kicking off episode 19 today with a fantastic guest, all the way from Ireland. I'm thrilled to introduce Roann Byrne, a passionate culinary expert, blogger, and co-founder of the organization Danu. Roann's journey with food began at a young age, baking with her grandmother Polly, and has blossomed in a multifaceted career that bridges the gap between food, culture, and storytelling. Roann's love of food extends beyond delicious creations. She's also a talented writer and academic, exploring the fascinating intersection of women's histories, everyday life, and of course, food studies. Her master's thesis, titled The Food of the Home, The Engagement of Ordinary Women in Food in Dublin City, 1950 to 2000, is a prime example of this. Through her research, Roann sheds light on the often overlooked contributions women have made to Irish cuisine, enriching our appreciation of these culinary traditions. Roann's impressive list of accolades includes being named one of the Irish Times 50 People to Watch 2023, Emerging Irish Food Writer Finalist 2023, NPD Chef of the Year 2022, third place, and Taste the Atlantic Young Chef Ambassador 2022. Wow. She currently serves on the Chef Network Advisory Board and as a guaranteed Irish judge in the Food and Beverage Categories this year, 2024. Roann's passion for food and storytelling are truly inspiring, and I'm so honored to have her on the podcast today. I'm going to take you now to my conversation with Roann Byrne. Welcome to the Well-Seasoned Librarian podcast. I'm your host, Dean Jones. Today, I'm very honored to be speaking with culinary expert, blogger, and co-founder of Danu, which we'll be talking about later, Roann Byrne. Roann, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. I'm very excited.
We're talking with you all the way across the world in Ireland. Can you tell us a little bit about where you were born and where you live now?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Louth and Drogheda and studied in Dublin and now living in Greystones in County Wicklow. So very beautiful part of the country, very lucky.
Now, can you take us back to your childhood kitchen? Tell us about a typical baking session with your grandmother Polly. And how did this shape your love of food and your connection with cooking?
Yeah, growing up, my dad was always a really great cook, and my grandmother was an amazing baker, and baking definitely was my kind of shining star, I guess. So just going over to her house and smelling fresh pastry and things like that was just it was a really pinnacle moment for some reason. I don't think I realized till years later, but she taught me how to make. She would always make these jam bakewell tarts. So literally just simple pastry with like lovely Irish butter and some jam, and then a frangipane filling with almonds on top. And they're like renowned. Like it was pretty much the only thing she baked, and everyone loved it. So I think that definitely shaped me because it was a really comfortable setting, and she just introduced me to all of this. I'd walk in, and it was kind of just go hell for leather. The island was always covered in flour. We'd have a lot of fun. It was very simple. Like her mixer, they had got from their wedding. So like it was like 40 years old. We used a glass to cut the pastry into the right shapes, things like that. And I think it just gave me a foundation in food that was very much based in family and kind of feeling those around you and that kind of thing. Yeah, so definitely baking was my start. I didn't really, not that I didn't like food growing up, but I love baking, and food was just kind of to keep me alive at the start.
We just had St. Patrick's Day in the United States,
Mhm.
and we tend to kind of, I think, cartoonize Irish culture when we have it. We always have any depictions of Irish food is always the same, as you know, corned beef and cabbage and soda bread, and it's just very much, stereotyped. And
Mm.
from my reading and my understanding, I don't believe that we in America or even in the West at all really understand Irish food. I remember I was talking to an Irish student that I worked with, and I said, "Well, what is your idea of a traditional Irish dish?" And he looked around, he
Mm.
looked at me for a while, and he goes, I guess I'd say a curry." And I thought
Yeah.
that was the best answer. I just love
Yeah.
that. So I want to ask you this question. I want to kind of put this out to you. Um, do you think Irish food gets stereotyped? Do you think people really understand it? And what are some of the hidden gems of Irish cuisine that you think deserve more recognition on the global stage?
Yeah, I think that's a really amazing question. It's definitely a huge topic that I'd say I know a lot of people kind of spending their lives thinking about. And I can't really be answered by one thing, but one of the things that I've followed and been really interested in is my lecturer that does the MA Gastronomy and Food Studies in TU Dublin and Grange Gorman. He said before that he thinks Irish food is the food of the home. So like that there's a lot of debates on whether we have a cuisine, but that our cuisine is just rooted in food and cooking at home. And to me, like if you're talking on a very like high level, that's what I would say. Because I think before, like currently we're having this like modern renaissance of Irish food and amazing. Yeah, so I did my master's in gastronomy and food studies, and I really want to look into what women in Ireland were doing at home and kind of cooking for their families. And like I really want to look into the mundane and that idea of like finding extraordinary in the mundane of every day. Because I think a lot of what gets recorded in history is like really exciting, big moments that happened. But women for hundreds of years were cooking at home and that might go undocumented. So a lot of it, I think I did expect. I did my study into women's food histories in Dublin. So Dublin between 1950 and 2000. I'm from Drogheda, which is about an hour from Dublin, so I wasn't super native. Dublin has a really amazing like inner cuisine almost. There's things like coddle, which is just it's kind of like an Irish stew that has sausages and like families put different things. So I knew there'd be a lot of it that I wouldn't know but kind of expected. But it was mainly just the stories, and definitely the biggest surprise to me was how much what I was studying impacted the women, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah, so like when doing the interviews, like at the start they'd really, really struggle and be quite uncomfortable. And then when they got into it and I just said, like, tell me about food in your life, they kind of started to like say one thing and then realize like, oh, this like food is a part of my life. These stories are just the everyday I never thought of telling anyone. And I feel like it gave a bit of confidence in them to say, like this is my life in food. And a lot of what came out, there was really interesting foods. Like Ray was a really big thing apparently, and a lot of fish, onion soup apparently,
Yeah.
things that definitely hadn't come up to Drogheda and things like that. But really, really amazing. The methods as well were very surprising. So obviously with technology, fridges and things like that weren't widely available, and people were using like basins of cold water at the bottom of the garden to keep things cold, and like salting and curing and all these things we've forgotten. And Roann is really amazing at speaking about kind of forgotten techniques and skills. But yeah, no, definitely the thing that most surprised me was just how much people didn't realize that they have been dealing with food for like 40 years. They were like, well, I don't really know anything. And then it definitely came to them, which was quite a cool moment, I think, in the research.
You have an organization called Danu, which fosters collaboration with the Irish food scene. Can you share an example of two seemingly unrelated disciplines coming together through Danu to create something amazing?
Yeah, definitely. I think the main was the whole point of Danu came from two different industries. So my partner is in technology and computer science. That's his academic background, his work background, and mine was in chefing and cooking and things like that, very culinary based. So the entire premise came from me talking about food. And he absolutely loves food and loves to cook. And in kind of talking about the different issues going on in food, he had such a different perspective. It was more kind of forward thinking, it was more solution based, it was more future focused. And I felt like that was kind of what we needed to bring into Irish food. So a lot of our friends, like we have friends, product designers, graphic designers, different skills that I wouldn't have dealt with just as a chef generally because it's quite expensive. Things like you might deal with them once or twice, but to be around them so much, you realize like their minds are just in a different place. Like, and these skills could be really, really useful to the Irish food industry. So we definitely merged the two of them because it was just like though I feel like it was just a clear sign to us that's how we can develop, that's how we can push forward if we can bring these skills. And it was the founder of Polaroid, Edwin H. Land, I think his name is.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast about his biography, and what he did was in founding Polaroid, instead of going to get people from industries that were close to his, like hiring students that were in that field, he hired art history students. And that to me, I was just like, okay, that's like it clicked in my head, and I was like, right, that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring people from different industries instead of all past chefs and things like that. We're going to bring product designers, graphic designers, technologists, things like that, and create like an Ocean's 11 kind of style solution.
Okay. Beyond connecting producers and consumers, how has Danu impacted the lives of people involved in Irish food culture?
Yeah, I think definitely in our approach. So one of our inaugural project was to do a print series, an art print series. So we worked with a local artist, Aoife Hodgins. She's really, really brilliant. And we wanted to bridge the gap between people and their producers through a visual lens, being art. So we got her to do a print of Maria Flynn from Balmackenny Spud Shack. She has a drive-through spud shop at her farm. It's so, so cool. So we got her to do a print of that and then sold them to the public and different cafes and things like that. And just like kind of literally very visually bridging that gap of like, this is someone locally who makes your food. They have a whole story, a family, and a place. And it was in realizing that I saw a lot of that. Like, I would know where she is and where that food comes from, but a lot of my friends didn't. So that was kind of the idea of just bringing it to the public. And it definitely, again, that thing with confidence seems to come back because she was so, so grateful. And it just gave her a lot of confidence and, like, oh, yeah, this is like, I'm ready to put myself out there. And like, this is a really amazing thing that we're doing here. Do a lot of work with social enterprises with Danu. So my partner Sean, he's chairperson of Enactus in TU Dublin, his college, and they essentially Enactus, what it is an organisation that helps students build social enterprises, which means businesses that their main goal and reason for being is just to create social impact and do good for the world. And it's really like he's amazingly passionate about it, which obviously is so infectious, and we always call it like the Enactus bug. It kind of gets transferred around. But one of the projects this year was Kangaroo. And how we launched the project was we did a workshop with them, which was just ideating. They knew they wanted to create modular solutions to meet needs for people, and they knew they wanted to start with students. So we knew that bringing a food truck to campus, branding it, and doing all that and creating the menu was their goal. So we did some ideation workshops and we helped them develop the business plan, and then they launched on the 6th of February. So that was a very, very exciting day. But I think definitely that for us and the team was just amazing to see like it on the ground, because obviously a lot of what we do is like long term and in the next 6 months, year, whatever, things we can't talk about obviously to the launch. But this was kind of something right here and then. Their idea is to give low cost, affordable, transparent pricing to students for meals. Because currently a lot of colleges here are under kind of tenders that are quite difficult to get around and things like that. So being able to meet those students on site and talk to them and see the impact they were having was definitely like a really big moment for all of us.
You've had a lot of accolades lately, and for good reason. Being named one of the Irish Times 50 People to Watch is a huge honor. How do these accolades motivate you and keep you pushing Irish food forward?
Yeah, I definitely think they motivate me in the sense that it gives me more of a platform for talking about these things I love talking about. So I feel like I've been working on my Instagram batch from scratch since I was about 16. And it's always just been so much fun. Obviously, Danu is our work, but batch from scratch is just purely like me and my life and food. I always kind of describe it. So I think the accolades and awards, they increase my platform, obviously, visibility, which means the work that I'm doing with others and for others then gets obviously pushed forward to be seen by more. And it's really nice as well to connect with people over it. Like if someone makes a recipe from my blog or something like that, it's just it kind of makes it quite worthwhile. And I've always felt very, very blessed to be able to share any of my story in food. I feel like that's just, as you were saying within the podcast yourself, like being able to just talk about this is, it feels like a bit of a dream come true. So definitely, they just motivate me that I'm on the right track and kind of moving in the way that I want to be.
You wear many hats. Can you tell us about your roles on the Chef Network Advisory Board as well as the Guaranteed Irish Judge? How do these experiences inform your work?
Yeah, the Chef Network Advisory Board role came from I was a Taste the Atlantic ambassador in 2022 now, feels like yesterday, which is a program run by Chef Network and Bordish Gawara, which are the Irish kind of aquaculture board, and they collaborated to bring this really, really amazing program. I think the applications are actually open now, but they essentially pick 5 young Irish chefs. I think it's between 18 and 25, and you go and you travel the Wide Atlantic way and you just meet fish producers and you get to do workshops with them. We worked with JP McMahon in his kitchen in Anir. Like, it's just the most surreal. It was definitely a platform of how I built everything, because I'd been so interested and I'd followed Jess Murphy and JP, but then you get to meet them and then they know who you are, and absolutely insane. But yeah, then we're very lucky. The Chef Network Advisory Board takes on some of the people that were doing the program, and then we get to kind of collaborate. And essentially, Chef Network work as like an advocate, kind of trying to develop the platform for our chefs and really, really make it a positive community. And it's just a nice space to be in. And then the Guaranteed Irish Judge, that was like just such a surreal thing to be asked. Because I feel like I'm so young as well. Like, I'm only 23, so I feel like anytime I do things like this, I get a bit of imposter syndrome. But I just try and, bring
I
myself
totally
back.
understand.
Yeah, I think I always have that though. But no, it's really, really amazing. And it was just really cool to know that I put so much love into this since I was 16 years old, and now that I get to actually obviously use that work, but even do good with it, like just reading everyone's applications and like putting my knowledge that I've worked so hard to kind of, get to this place into a different way as well. That's just outside of work. It was really, really good.
We've had JP on the show before, and just from his
Mm-hmm.
stories, I see so much in Irish cuisine that's continually evolving and
Mm-hmm.
changing. What
Yeah.
trends or innovations are you most excited about in the future for Irish cuisine?
Yeah, I think JP, I mean, he's definitely one of the best advocates for innovation in Irish food. Just absolutely amazing the way he talks about it. And sorry, my brain has gone blank. Yeah, so trends and innovations, definitely really excited for the future of restaurants here. It's already on such an up, and even though everything took a hit after COVID, it's really, really exciting to see that so many restaurants are able to stay open and do really well. So very, very excited for things like that. Places like Lignum and Riley Jones, just my absolute favorites. Um, Other than that, there's just so many. I'd say definitely one of my biggest exciting things every day in food is seeing what comes out of Kirsten Jensen with Blaster Books, so her publishing company. They're an Irish publishing company, and she creates these range of. Oh, sorry, Blaster Books is the range of cookbooks, but Nine Bean Rose is her publishing company. Just make sure I get that
Yeah.
right. And they created these series of, I think it's 70-page books, and they're all kind of small, but they're really beautifully designed, all different authors. And her entire ethos was she wanted to connect chefs from around the world that might not be given a platform because it's so expensive to create a cookbook, and like let them tell their story and bring these amazing recipes. So there's been ones from the Gastronomies, they did hot fat. There's been just like amazing. There's Walk with Kwanji, and it's really cool because they're so accessible, so affordable, and just to have like anything from Asian cuisine to Mediterranean in your kitchen, from an Irish publishing company is definitely very exciting. Um, I'm very excited as well about the Irish drinks industry. There's been a lot in that with like Blanchard and vermouth and Kinsale mead. I'm not a big drinker myself, but I found places like those I really really like because they're just so well made and they taste so beautiful that you don't need to have a lot. You can really really enjoy them. Definitely, yeah, very excited to see what comes out of that.
The vermouth is a big deal because that's
Mm.
usually monopolized by Nolly Pratt, and it's
Mm.
nice to see somebody else doing vermouth, I think. And I
Yeah,
like that
definitely.
it's being opened up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's so good. I mean, Anna and Orla, they're just such a lovely couple, and living out in Valentia Island, it sounds like a fairy tale when you listen to them. One of the projects that we've been working on recently is Talamh Inchin Nua, which is our new blog series. Just means new mine, new ground, new mines in Irish. And we wanted to really highlight and tell the stories just in a small way through a blog on our website of producers in Ireland in food and drink that are doing really innovative things. Either they are just overall an innovative business or they have a product that was really innovative. And it's just been, I knew I was going to love it and I knew it was going to be a passion project as part of Danu, but I didn't think how much it would like kind of light me up. And the second one that we did was with the Valentia Island girls, Anna and Orla, and they told the story of how they were living in Bristol together and they were going to art school and working. And one day, they gone to a taster of vermouths and came home and they were just like, we have to do this. And like they moved to Valencia and just like I think Orla's grandfather was a beekeeper there, so he knew the land and he helped them with like herbs and like different like flavors and spices for the drinks. And I just feel like it's you can feel the passion of Irish producers so easily about what they do in any, if it's dairy, drinks, anything, and it's infectious, which is obviously really motivating. And I think even just hearing their stories and writing it up and telling it motivates me every day in what we do with the new, and just it's just been one of the most exciting things definitely I think I've ever done. Very excited to keep doing
I'm really so excited about, Danu and what you and your
it.
co-founder have done. And
Thank
I'm
you.
just, as you as a person, you just seem so dynamic. Do you think this is something that with your generation that you're really kind of taking the ball and rolling with it and doing a lot of things? I know my generation was kind of like, we're fucked. And like
Mm,
everything, there's no point, and you guys are seem to
yeah.
be like very optimistic, very much like we're going to make changes, we're positive. Do you think that's a good assessment?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think it comes from, in a weird way, we've kind of seen with COVID and things like that, and like the house crisis and stuff in Ireland, we've kind of seen not the rock bottom, but we had a lot of stuff thrown at us with all that, obviously, as everyone did. So I think something as massive as COVID, when you're our age, is just like, well, if that's how bad it can get, I may as well try and build a better life and do the things I want to do, because at any point the world could shut down. So I definitely think, like, I know a lot of my friends, there's just so much passion there, and I think there was kind of, if obviously COVID brought a lot of fear, but it also killed a lot of fear in the sense that you've kind of seen how crazy things can get. Like that was one of the, no one had experienced something like that. So I think it's kind of just a, I don't know, spins your head to make you think like I may as well do what I want to do and do what I love. And I definitely think, yeah, there's a lot of people that are following their passions at the minute, and it's amazing to see because it's obviously again really inspiring to follow.
I want to thank you for being on the podcast and talking to me. You've been a real inspiration, and I really enjoy your work and what you're doing with your co-founder of Danu. For our listeners, we're going to have links to Roann's blog as well as a link to Danu as well. Thank you, Roann, for being on the podcast. You've been a real treat to talk to.
Thank you so much, Dean. It's been absolutely amazing. It's such an honor. I can't believe it.
It was a fascinating conversation with Roann Byrne about her food studies and her organization, Danu, where they celebrate food culture and production in Ireland. Don't forget to check out the links to her blog and her organization, Danu, in the show notes. As you continue your culinary adventures, what cultural influences inspire your cooking? Share your thoughts with us on social media using the hashtag #WellSeasonedLibrarian. We'd love to hear from you. We've got another delicious episode lined up next week where we'll be exploring the intersection of food writing and culture. Until then, I'll see you in the library.